The alien girl wasn't always like this. Before she was feared, she was trained to destroy humans without mercy. To her people, humans were pests, weak, emotional, and too soft for war. But everything changed the night the sky cracked, with fire. It began with a raid. The planet Zalara had always been a silent shadow in the far quadrant, filled with lush, dark forests, sharp mountains, and glowing rivers. A place the humans were warned to avoid. But Earth's survival needed resources, and Zalara had plenty. Captain Lewis, a young human soldier, was sent with a small unit. Their mission was simple: land, collect samples, and leave unseen. But nothing ever goes as planned. The Zalarian warriors attacked without warning, fast, brutal, unforgiving. Lewis ran through the burning forest, holding his side where energy claws had torn through his armor. His team was dead, the ship destroyed, his comm silent, and someone was hunting him. She moved like a ghost, tall, lean, and terrifyingly fast. Her skin shimmered with deep purple scales. Her eyes glowed like cold stars. Her name was Zyria, and to her kind she was known as the Blade Dancer of the West. A predator. She leaped from the trees, tackled him, and placed a sharp claw under his throat. "You are trespassing on sacred soil, human," she hissed. Lewis didn't answer. He was too focused on the blood pouring from her arm. She was hurt. A deep slash ran down from her shoulder to her wrist. She didn't seem to care, but he noticed. Despite everything, he noticed. "Your wound," he whispered. Zyria flinched, not from pain but confusion. You see my blood and you speak of my pain?" she snapped. Lewis coughed. "You're bleeding bad. I can help," she snarled, pressing the claw harder. Why would a human help the enemy? His voice was low, weak, but honest. Because someone should. There was silence between them. Fire crackled in the distance. Her squad was nowhere in sight. Zyria looked down at her arm, then at the human under her. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't afraid. He was just calm. And then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she didn't kill him. Instead, she dragged him with her. Zyria dragged the human across the forest floor, one strong hand gripping the back of his ruined armor. Her injured arm stung with every step, but she ignored it. She was used to pain. What she wasn't used to was doubt. Why didn't she kill him? That question haunted her more than the wound. The jungle glowed in patches of blue and green as they entered deeper into Zalara's wild zone, off limits even to her kind. But Zyria wasn't worried. She needed a hiding place, somewhere to treat her injury, somewhere her squad wouldn't look. Behind her, the human, Lewis, groaned again. He had lost too much blood. His face was pale, but his eyes still moved, still watched her. You don't have to drag me," he whispered. "Just let me walk." She paused, turned. He was trying to smile, even while bleeding. "Not the worst first date I've had." Zyria blinked. "Is this some kind of mating attempt?" Lewis coughed. "Just trying to lighten the mood." She narrowed her glowing eyes. "You are strange. I get that a lot." Without warning, she grabbed his arm and helped him up. He gasped as pain shot through his side but managed to stay on his feet. Together they walked in silence until they reached a small cave covered in thick, glowing vines. Zyria led him inside, dropped him against the wall, and finally collapsed. Beside him, for a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Lewis broke the silence. "Your arm, it's bad," Zyria hissed. "It will heal." Lewis slowly opened the med kit from his torn uniform. "Let me help. I have field medicine." She growled. "I do not accept help from prey." Lewis ignored her words and reached out, carefully. "Then don't think of me as prey. Think of me as someone who doesn't want to see you lose that arm." Zyria's jaw tightened. She should kill him. She should rip his throat open and leave. But something about his voice, his eyes, the calm way he looked at her, not with fear but with concern, it made her chest feel odd. Slowly she extended her arm. Lewis cleaned the wound gently, applying a cold foam that sealed the bleeding. Zaria flinched once, but otherwise remained still. "You're lucky," he muttered. "A few more inches and it would have hit the artery." "I don't need luck," she replied quietly. "I was born for war." Lewis looked up at her. "Even warriors bleed." That made her pause. She stared at him as he patched the last part of her injury. His hands were warm, precise. He worked with the focus of someone who had done this many times before. "You are a medic?" she asked. He shook his head. "Soldier first. Learned medicine on the battlefield. I've had to save friends, even enemies sometimes." "Enemies?" Her voice was full of disbelief. "Yeah. War doesn't last forever. But wounds do." Zaria didn't respond. She just stared at her arm. For the first time in years, someone had touched her without anger, without fear, without expecting something. In return, it made her feel small. And for a deadly alien warrior, small was terrifying. Outside the cave, a distant howl echoed through the jungle. Zaria stood quickly. "Scouts, they're looking for you." Lewis tried to stand too, but collapsed. Again. "Then you should go." She stared at him. "You don't need to protect me," he said, breathing heavily. "We're enemies, remember?" Her fingers twitched. "You saved me. You could have saved me too, but you didn't. You dragged me here. Maybe you wanted me alive for questioning. Maybe not. I don't know. But you didn't let me die." Silence. Then she whispered, "I don't know why either." For the first time, she admitted it, to him and to herself. That night, Zaria sat by the cave entrance, staring into the darkness, claws ready. Lewis slept behind her, breathing steady now. His chest rose and fell like a quiet rhythm. A strange thought crossed her mind. He's not like the others, and somehow, that scared her more than any human weapon ever had. Zaria didn't sleep. She sat at the mouth of the cave all night, her sharp eyes watching the jungle's glowing shadows. Her ears twitched at every sound, every snap of a branch or distant growl. But her mind wasn't focused on danger. It was focused on him, the human. He slept behind her, using a piece of his jacket as a blanket, one arm resting over his injured side. His face was calm now, the pain dulled by the medicine he had offered without hesitation. Why? Why would a human, a soldier of the enemy, care about her wound? Solarians were taught that humans were selfish, cowards, dishonest. But Lewis didn't match that image. He had been kind, gentle. Zaria growled softly, angry at herself. Kindness is weakness, her teachers always said. But if that was true, why did she feel so confused? Morning came in a pale green light, filtered through thick jungle leaves. Zaria stood up and stretched. Her injured arm still ached, but the swelling was down. Behind her, Lewis stirred. He opened his eyes and blinked. "You're still here?" She gave him a hard look. "Of course I am. This is my world." He smiled, still weak. I thought you'd leave me." "I should have," she muttered. Lewis sat up slowly. "But you didn't." Their eyes met again, silent meaning passing between them. Neither said what they were thinking. Later that day, Zaria went out to gather food, edible roots and thick yellow fruits that looked like glowing pears. She returned to the cave and dropped them in front of Lewis. He raised an eyebrow. "You brought me breakfast?" "It's not poison, if that's what you're thinking," she said, folding her arms. He chuckled. "Didn't say it was, just surprised you'd share. I didn't say it was for you." Still, she sat beside him and handed him one of the fruits anyway. For a moment, it almost felt normal. But peace doesn't last long during war. As the two sat in silence, a sound broke the moment. Footsteps, several, soft but trained. Getting closer, Zaria jumped to her feet, claws extended. "Stay here," she growled. Lewis tried to rise too, but his wounds were still fresh. Cyria, but she was already outside. She crouched in the bushes, silent as a shadow. Then she saw them. 3 Zalarian scouts, fully armored, moving quickly, weapons drawn. They were looking for her. Or for the human. One of them stopped. Tracks, fresh. Cyria's heart pounded. If they found Lewis, they'd kill him. No trial, no mercy, just execution. She had to make a choice. Her people, or the human who saved her. Cyria leapt from the bushes with a roar. The scouts turned, surprised. Cyria, you're injured. I was tracking the human, she lied. He fled west. I chased him here. One scout frowned. Why didn't you signal us? I lost my comm unit and I didn't need help. They looked past her, toward the cave. Too close. She bared her fangs and stepped forward. Are you questioning a blade dancer's word? The scout stiffened. No, warrior. Forgive me. Cyria growled low, then returned to camp. I will finish this alone. The scouts hesitated, then nodded and disappeared back into the trees. She stood still until their footsteps faded, then she rushed back into the cave. Lewis stared at her, his hand gripping a broken metal pipe like a weapon. They're gone? She nodded, breathing heavily. You lied to protect me, he said quietly. Cyria didn't respond. She was still shaking, not from fear, but from what she had just risked. I could have been executed, she said at last. If they knew. Lewis put the pipe down. You didn't have to. She turned to him. I know. He reached for her hand, but stopped, unsure. Cyria stared at his fingers, so close to hers. Her claws twitched. She didn't understand, this feeling building inside her. I don't know what's happening, she said. To me. Around you. I should want to kill you. But instead, she bared her fangs, not in a threat, but in confusion. I feel like I've lost my edge, she whispered. Lewis smiled. Or maybe you're finding a new one. That night, Cyria sat closer to him, not touching, but closer. And this time, when she looked at him, she didn't see a human soldier. She saw someone dangerous in a different way, someone who made her forget she was supposed to be a monster. The jungle of Zalara was silent that night, but not peaceful. The 2 moons had risen, casting a cold silver glow through the tangled branches. The vines shimmered like ghost threads. Somewhere far away, a creature howled into the sky. It was a warning. A signal. Something was coming. Inside the small cave, Lewis was awake. He stared up at the rocky ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. About Earth. About the war. About her, Cyria. The alien girl who had once tried to kill him. Now sat, just a few feet away, tending her clawed fingers in silence. She hadn't spoken much since the scouts left earlier that day. She seemed distant, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else. He noticed her claws were shaking slightly. You okay? He asked softly. She didn't look at him. You should sleep. I can't. A pause. Then she said, The moons make the air thin. It affects your kind. Lewis sat up. Is that why you look tense? Cyria's eyes flicked toward him. No, I'm tense because I broke every law my people believe in. You didn't kill me, Lewis replied. That doesn't make you weak. Her voice was bitter. To my people it does. He studied her face, the sharp lines, the glowing eyes, the markings down her cheek that looked like inked scars. She was beautiful, in a fierce and dangerous way. But tonight, she looked tired. And something else. Lost. You didn't just save me, he said. You saved something inside yourself too. You don't have to be a killer, Cyria. She turned away. You don't know me. He smiled sadly. Maybe not, but I want to. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed outside the cave. Zaria was on her feet instantly, claws out, muscles tense. Lewis froze. "What is it?" he whispered. She sniffed the air, listening carefully. Then, snap. The bushes outside shook. Zaria rushed forward, motioning him to stay hidden. She slipped into the shadows like a whisper. Lewis held his breath. Seconds passed, then came a screech, a loud crash. Something was growling, deep, hungry, and close. Zaria's voice echoed from outside. "Stay inside." Lewis crawled to the cave entrance just enough to peek out. In the moonlight, he saw her, fighting a beast the size of a small truck. It had a massive shell on its back, spiked limbs, and a mouth full of dripping teeth. A native predator of Zalara. The creature lunged at her and she dodged, slashing its face. It screamed in rage, spinning and knocking her into a tree. "Zaria!" Lewis shouted. She coughed, blood trickling down her chin. The beast came for her again. Without thinking, Lewis grabbed a jagged stone and rushed out of the cave. He charged at the monster with a loud yell, swinging wildly. The stone hit its side. It wasn't much, but it distracted the beast for just a second, enough time for Zaria to leap on its back and drive her claws deep into its neck. The creature screeched, and then collapsed with a heavy thud. Silence. Zaria stumbled off the corpse and dropped to her knees. Her arm was bleeding again, her side was bruised. Lewis rushed to her. "You're hurt." "I've had worse," she muttered, breathing hard. He tore fabric from his shirt and pressed it to her bleeding wound. "You saved me again." She gave him a small, tired smile. "You were the distraction. And you were the blade." Their eyes met under the twin moons. Neither of them looked away. Then Zaria whispered, "You're not like the others." Lewis chuckled. "You said that before. I didn't understand it before." She leaned against him slightly, her head resting on his shoulder for just a second. Then she pulled away, cheek slightly flushed. Even though her kind didn't blush the way humans did, her skin glowed a deeper purple. "Don't read into it," she said quickly. "It was just the moons." Lewis smiled. "Sure, just the moons." They sat side by side near the dying beast, watching the jungle return to stillness. For the first time, Zaria didn't feel alone. And for the first time, Lewis didn't feel like he was behind enemy lines. Something was changing. Something neither of them could stop now. Zaria had never felt like this before. She was a warrior, a killer, a legend in her unit. But now, sitting beside a wounded human, wrapped in silence, her heart beat too fast. Too uncertain. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was something softer. Something she didn't understand. She watched him as he cleaned the scratches on her arms again. His hands were rough but careful, moving with patience and focus. Her voice came out quieter than she expected. "Why do you keep helping me?" Lewis looked up at her. "Because you're bleeding." That never stopped anyone from leaving me before. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Well, I'm not anyone." Zaria frowned. "You're human. That makes you my enemy." He smiled gently. "Then why are you letting your enemy touch you like this?" Zaria looked away. "Because your hands feel strange." "Strange how?" She hesitated, then said, "Warm, gentle, like they want to protect, not hurt." Lewis leaned forward slightly. "That's what hands are supposed to do." Zaria scoffed. "Not on my world." He kept cleaning her wound, then gently tied the cloth around it. She didn't pull away, she didn't growl. Her claws didn't twitch. Instead, she felt safe, and that terrified her more than any weapon ever had. Later they sat in silence, each lost in thought. The jungle outside the cave was quiet again. The dead beast still lay near the entrance, a reminder of the chaos from earlier. But inside, it was calm. Too calm. Lewis broke the silence. "Tell me something." Zaria blinked. "What?" He looked at her with curiosity. What do Zalarian warriors dream about? She tilted her head. Dreams are weakness. We don't waste time on them. I don't believe that, he said. She sighed. Fine. I used to dream about flying. Not in ships, just flying with my own wings. Of course, we don't have wings, so it was foolish. I don't think it's foolish, Lewis said. You wanted freedom. Zaria looked surprised. Freedom? He nodded. You've been fighting so long, maybe you've forgotten what it feels like. Zaria didn't answer, because he was right. Later that evening, Lewis was dozing against the wall when he felt something strange. A head resting on his shoulder. He turned slightly and saw her. Zaria. She had moved closer, curled up slightly like a resting feline, her long silver hair brushing against his arm. Her claws were tucked away. Her breathing was steady. She wasn't a weapon now. She was just a girl, a tired, wounded, misunderstood girl. And Lewis didn't move. He didn't speak. He just sat there, letting her stay close. Because in that moment, he understood. Her greatest weakness wasn't her wounds. It was trust. And she had given a little piece of it to him. Suddenly, Zaria spoke without opening her eyes. You smell like smoke and metal. Lewis laughed softly. I'll take that as a compliment. Another pause. Then she whispered, Don't leave while I sleep. I won't, he said, I promise. Outside, the moons glowed brighter. Inside, something unspoken passed between them, stronger than any alliance, deeper than orders from any general. Two enemies, breathing the same air, resting side by side. And for the first time, neither wanted to go back to the war. Zaria dreamed, but not of war or blood or broken bones like usual. This time, she dreamed of warmth, of hands wrapping gently around hers, of laughter, and of peace. When she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was the soft glow of the jungle outside. The second was Lewis, still sitting beside her, fast asleep with his head resting against the wall, chin tilted slightly forward. She had rested on his shoulder all night, and he hadn't moved. Not once. She watched his chest rise and fall, so calm, so steady, no weapon in hand, no fear in his expression. Zaria sat up slowly. Her body still ached, but the pain was fading now, partly from the medicine, partly from something else. She touched her chest lightly. That strange warmth was still there. It was unsettling and also comforting. She hated it, and she wanted more of it. As the sun, dull and green on this planet, rose higher, Lewis stirred. He blinked his eyes open. You're up. Zaria nodded. You didn't run. Told you I wouldn't. She stared at him for a long second. Then she said, You kept your word. I always do. Zaria looked down at her hands. You're not what I expected. None of this is. He smiled softly. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. They shared a quiet meal of jungle fruit and roasted meat Lewis had managed to cook on a small fire. Zaria watched him curiously as he worked, how carefully he turned the food, how he used leaves to serve it like a proper meal. This is not how warriors eat, she said. Well, he replied, grinning. I'm trying to impress a fierce, alien girl. Think it's working? She rolled her eyes, but the edges of her lips twitched upward. It was almost a smile. Later that day, Zaria stretched out near the cave entrance, soaking in the filtered sunlight. Lewis sat nearby, fiddling, with a broken piece of his communicator. It was beyond repair, but it kept his hands busy. Then, suddenly, he heard something. A sound he never thought he'd hear from her. A low, soft purring. His head turned sharply. Zaria had her eyes closed, lying on her side, one leg tucked up, the other stretched out. Her clawed fingers were relaxed. Her tail, which had always been stiff or ready to strike, now curled gently beside her. and her chest was vibrating softly with a rhythmic, soothing hum. Lewis blinked. Are you purring? Zaria opened one eye slowly, and for once, didn't look angry. Solarian females sometimes purr when they feel calm, she said. But you're a warrior, Lewis teased. I'm still female, she muttered, then added quietly. And right now, I'm calm. Lewis tried not to laugh. You really are a kitten under all that armor, huh? Her claws extended for a second. I could remove your spine. He raised his hands. Okay. Still fierce. Very scary. But she didn't swipe. Instead, she chuckled. It was low, almost a growl, but it was a laugh. And Lewis couldn't stop smiling. That night, as the jungle once again filled with distant howls and glowing lights, Zaria leaned against him on her own. No wounds, no excuses, just choice. Lewis looked down at her. You're changing. She didn't argue. Instead, she whispered, So are you. And there, under the alien sky, an invisible line had been crossed. No longer enemies, no longer strangers. Something softer was forming. Stronger than blood, stranger than war. Something neither of them had a name for. But they could feel it, and Zaria purred once more, this time even softer, as if her heart finally allowed her to let go. The warmth between them didn't last long. By the third morning, Zaria knew something was wrong. The jungle was too quiet. The birds had stopped singing. The light breeze carried a strange scent, metal, oil, and blood. Then came the sound she feared most, the cold hum of a Zalarian scout drone. She pushed Lewis back into the cave. Don't speak, don't move. She stepped outside with a blank expression, claws hidden back straight. Moments later, 2 Zalarian soldiers dropped from the trees. Zaria, one barked. By the elders, we've been looking for you for days. Are you injured? She didn't flinch. I was tracking a human. Got caught in a rock slide. He escaped. The other soldier narrowed his eyes. Strange. We picked up 2 life signs here. One was definitely human. Zaria's jaw tightened. I killed him last night. Burned the body. The soldier moved closer. We will search the area to confirm. Zaria stepped in front of the cave entrance. There's nothing to search. The second soldier lifted his communicator. Protocol. Requires confirmation. Zaria knew if they searched the cave, they'd find Lewis, wounded, alive and very human, and her bond with him would be exposed. Without thinking, she drew her blade and pressed it to the nearest soldier's throat. Both of them froze. Her voice was low, sharp, deadly. Do you doubt my report? Do you accuse a blade dancer of dishonor? The soldier gulped. No, of course not. Then return to camp. Tell command the human is dead. After a long pause, the soldiers obeyed. They vanished into the jungle. Only then did Zaria lower her weapon. Lewis stepped out from behind a curtain of vines inside the cave. That was close. Zaria didn't look at him. She was shaking, not from fear, but rage. Why did I lie for you again? She whispered. He stepped closer. Because you didn't want to see me die. She turned her glowing eyes toward him. They're going to find out. If they do, I'll be executed. Do you understand that? I do. Then why aren't you running? Lewis shrugged slightly. Because I don't want to run from you. That answer made her chest tighten. You're insane, she whispered. Maybe, he said softly. But I trust you now. Her claws twitched, and then relaxed. That evening, the jungle darkened fast. The cave was no longer safe. They had to move. Zaria led them deep into the forest, far beyond the range of patrols. She knew secret paths even her squad didn't. Paths used only by exiles. Where are we going? Lewis asked. To the edge of the war zone, she said. There's an old outpost. Abandoned. If you make it there, you can contact your people. And what about you? She paused. I'll go back. Lewis frowned. After all this? I don't have a choice, she said coldly. You do. He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Their fingers locked. Zyria stared at the touch, alien skin and human skin. So different, yet somehow right. You've changed me, she whispered. You've changed me too, he replied. They walked in silence, hand in hand. By nightfall, they reached the outpost, a small ruined building half swallowed by jungle vines. A human emergency beacon still blinked weakly inside. This is it, Zyria said. Lewis looked at her. Come with me. She shook her head. I can't. Why not? Because your people would lock me up. Or worse. They won't. You don't know that. He stepped forward. Then I'll protect you. Zyria looked away. You already have. But I'm not ready to stop fighting yet. Tears glowed faintly in her eyes, but she blinked them away before they could fall. Then, she leaned in and pressed her forehead against his. Solarians didn't kiss. But this was their version, a warrior's vow. A final bond. I'll wait, she whispered. Even if it takes years. I'll find you again. I'll be waiting, Lewis said. And then, she turned and disappeared into the jungle, without looking back. Zyria ran through the jungle like a shadow, but her heart felt heavy. The moment she left Lewis, something inside her cracked. For the first time in her life, she didn't want to be a warrior. She didn't want to be a blade dancer, she just wanted to be with him. But war didn't care about what people wanted. Back at the Zalarian war camp, her return caused immediate tension. You disobeyed orders, the captain snapped. You vanished during a human hunt, and you returned alone. Zyria stood tall, even though her legs were tired, and her mind still full of Lewis's voice. The human escaped, she said. But not unharmed, the captain's eyes narrowed. We picked up a signal, a human distress beacon, very close to where you claim you were. Zyria didn't blink. Coincidence? Is it? He stepped closer. One of the scout teams found human footprints, and 2 sets of them. One Zalarian, one human, traveling together. Silence. Then he growled. Tell me, warrior, what did you really do out there? Zyria didn't answer, because the truth would kill her. Not just her body, but her place, her name, her history. Still she stayed silent. That night, she was confined to her tent. No weapons, no armor, just silence. Meanwhile, at the ruined outpost, Lewis finally made contact with a nearby human patrol. A rescue shuttle was on its way, but something didn't sit right in his chest. He didn't feel rescued. He felt like he was leaving a piece of himself behind. 3 days later, the Zalarian War Council made their decision. Zyria was to be publicly stripped of her title, no trial, no honor. They claimed she had lost her warrior spirit. Some whispered traitor, others whispered human lover. The punishment was exile or execution, whichever she chose. But before the sentence could be carried out, a human shuttle was spotted entering Zalarian airspace. Not a warship, a single pilot, and the guards were shocked to see who it was. Lewis, wounded, tired, but determined. He walked out of the shuttle, hands raised. I'm here to speak to your commander. They pointed weapons at him. Are you insane? One shouted. You'll be killed. Lewis didn't move. Then do it. But you'll never forget the day one human walked into your camp for her. Zyria was dragged from her tent in chains. Her eyes widened when she saw him. Lewis, standing tall, proud, with a fire in his eyes. She shouted, What are you doing? Go back. He smiled. I promised I wouldn't leave you. The Zalarian captain sneered. You dare walk into our camp? You bring shame to her blood. Lewis didn't even look at him. He kept his eyes on Zyria. She saved my life. And I'm here to return the favor. You think one human can change anything? The captain roared, and then he struck Zyria across the face. Hard. Before anyone could blink, Lewis moved. He lunged at the captain, punching him with all the strength he had left. The Zalarian staggered backward in shock. Weapons were raised. Saria screamed, "No!" She spun around and slammed her chains into the nearest soldier. Then she leapt, grabbed Lewis, and shielded him with her own body. "Stand down!" she shouted at the others. "If you touch him again, I'll kill every last one of you." Everyone froze. This was no longer a warrior obeying orders. This was a female defending her mate. An elder stepped forward, ancient and wise. He looked at Zaria with calm eyes. "You've chosen your path?" She looked at Lewis, then back at the elder. "Yes," she said. "I choose him." Silence. Then the elder raised a hand. "Then by old law, you are no longer one of us. But you are free to leave." The captain protested. "This is madness." But the elder's voice was final. "Let her go." Cyria's chains were removed, her blade was returned, and as the crowd parted, she walked toward Lewis slowly, then reached out her clawed hand and placed it on his chest. "You really are stupid," she whispered. "I get that a lot," he replied. And together, they walked away, toward the shuttle. She didn't look back. Not once. Because from now on, she was no longer a weapon of war. She was his. The ship lifted off. Zaria stood beside Lewis in the human shuttle, silent as the jungle faded beneath them. Her eyes were fixed on the sky ahead, but her mind was lost somewhere between pain and peace. She had walked away from everything. Her title, her people, her history. And for what? For him, a human. But she felt no regret. Lewis sat in the pilot seat, glancing at her with quiet admiration. "You okay?" Zaria didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I think I am, for the first time." But peace never lasts long in a galaxy at war. As their shuttle entered human airspace, a message crackled through the speakers. "Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Fleet Command. You are entering a restricted zone. Identify immediately." Lewis leaned forward. "This is Corporal Lewis A. Monroe. I'm returning from Zalarian territory with..." Static. Then another voice cut in. "Corporal Monroe, you are presumed KIA. Your access has been revoked. Prepare for boarding." Zaria tensed. "They're going to treat me like a prisoner." "No," Lewis said, jaw tight. "I won't let them." But before he could say more, a blast hit the shuttle. Zaria grabbed his shoulder. "They're firing warning shots." He gritted his teeth. "We don't have time for this. Hold on." The small ship swerved and dove through the clouds, but larger Earth cruisers were surrounding them fast. Within minutes, they were caught in a tractor beam and pulled down to a military base on a desert moon. The hatch opened. Soldiers in armor poured in, weapons raised. "Step away from the alien." Lewis stood between them and Zaria. "She's not a threat." A commander stepped forward. "You brought a hostile into human space. Do you know how many protocols that breaks?" Lewis shouted back. "She saved my life. She protected me when she could have let me die." One soldier scoffed. "Maybe she's controlling you." Zaria took a step forward, eyes glowing. "If I were controlling him, you'd already be dead." Everyone pointed their weapons again, but this time, Lewis raised his hands, then said one word. "Enough." Before the situation could explode, an alarm blared from the base's main tower. Solarian fleet approaching. 10 ships entering orbit. Everyone froze. Zaria's eyes widened. "That can't be." Lewis looked at her. "Is this revenge for you leaving?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Chaos broke out. The humans rushed to defensive positions. Anti-aircraft guns began warming up. Pilots ran to their fighters. The ground rumbled as ships descended like silver daggers. From the sky, a voice echoed through the base's speakers. "Surrender the traitor Zaria, or we will destroy everything." The commander turned to her. "Is this your doing?" Zaria's face was hard. "No, but I'll stop it." He laughed. "You expect me to trust you?" Lewis stepped in. "Then trust me. She's the only one who knows how they think, how they fight. We need her." The commander hesitated, then tossed Zaria a rifle. "Try anything, and I'll shoot you myself." Zaria caught the weapon, checked the charge, and nodded. Fair enough. When the battle began, she fought beside the humans. Fast, deadly, fearless. Her claws tore through Zalarian attackers. Her rifle flashed like lightning. Soldiers who once feared her now followed her lead. Lewis stayed close, firing from cover, watching, her move like the blade dancer she was. But this time, she wasn't killing out of duty. She was protecting him. Hours passed. The battlefield turned to smoke and blood. Then, Zaria spotted someone, a Zalarian captain, one of her old trainers landed in a drop pod. He saw her and laughed. "You've fallen low, Zaria. Fighting for humans. Are you their pet now?" She didn't flinch. She raised her weapon. "No, I'm their protector." He rushed her with twin blades. They fought hard, blades flashing, claws striking, steel against steel. Zaria gritted her teeth. She was tired, hurt. But then she remembered Lewis. His smile, his hands, his warmth. And she found her strength. With one final strike, she drove her blade into the captain's chest. He collapsed. She stood over him, panting. It was over. The Zalarian fleet retreated. The base stood tall, and Zaria remained standing, not as a weapon, not as a traitor, but as a hero. The battlefield was silent. Ash floated in the air like gray snow. Wounded soldiers sat against walls, some crying, others staring at the sky. But Zaria stood tall, covered in cuts, dirt, and blood, but alive, and finally, at peace. She dropped her weapon and walked slowly through the ruins of the human base. Her claws were hidden, her shoulders relaxed. She didn't look like a warrior anymore. She looked like a woman who had survived everything. Waiting near a supply truck was Lewis, wrapped in a bandage around his chest, holding a bottle of water. When he saw her, he smiled. "You made it," he said. Zaria nodded. "So did you." He walked toward her, his steps shaky but determined. "They're talking about giving you a medal." She raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "For saving all of them." Zaria looked around at the soldiers. Many of them nodded or saluted her. Just days ago, they had pointed guns at her. Now they saw her differently. "I didn't do it for them," she said softly. Lewis stepped closer. "I know." Their eyes met. The air between them felt heavy, but in a good way. Full of meaning, full of truth. Later that evening, as the sun set over the broken horizon, the humans gathered to honor the fallen and recognize the brave. Zaria stood off to the side, unsure of her place. Then the base commander called out, "Zaria of Zalara, come forward." She froze. Lewis gave her a gentle nudge. "Go on. They mean it." Slowly, she stepped forward. The commander stood tall. "For courage in battle, and for protecting lives beyond species, we offer you the honor of alliance." He held out a small, silver badge. Zaria stared at it, a human medal for an alien. She took it, fingers trembling slightly. "I don't need medals," she said, "but I'll keep it, because of what it represents." The humans clapped. Some even cheered. And for the first time, she smiled. That night, the two of them sat alone under the stars, on the edge of the landing bay. Zaria leaned her head on Lewis's shoulder. No weapons. No armor, just skin, just silence, just something real. "Where will you go now?" she asked. He thought for a second. "Earth, maybe. Or one of the outer colonies, somewhere quiet. You don't want to fight anymore?" He shook his head. "I've done enough of that." She closed her eyes. "So have I." A pause. Then she whispered, "Would I be welcome on Earth?" Lewis smiled. "With me you would." She turned to face him, close now. Her hand touched his chest gently. "You changed me," she whispered. You softened me, he whispered back. Then, with no one watching, she leaned in. And finally, after everything, they kissed. Soft, slow, perfect. The fierce alien girl who once roared and threatened and fought without mercy, now purred softly in his arms, not weak, but safe and loved. The galaxy didn't stop spinning. Wars still raged somewhere far away. But for Zyria and Lewis, there was peace, because sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is learn how to love.